I'll begin with a 5-minute round of questions. I know then the chairman should return promptly and I'll go vote. Let me ask a question general before I get into the particular platforms, which is the adjudication of resources and workforce to these 3 very important platforms. Columbia class, very important. Virginia class, very important. Carrier, very important. You cite some of the reasons for delays or not being able to do the work we need to do in a timely fashion, and the reasons you cite are similar: supply chain issues, workforce issues. As you work together with the 2 primary shipyards, how, from a Navy standpoint, how are you sort of prioritizing and adjudicating the progress on Virginia class vis-a-vis Columbia, vis-a-vis Carrier? If you could talk about that, please.
Sir, I'll just briefly open up by, obviously, all of the platforms are important. It has to be an all of the above strategy. Columbia is clearly our highest program priority, but the carriers bring an essential mission, and Virginia is critically important to the fight. We work together. We have to do what makes our programs most efficient, but we work together every day, ensuring that our plans for both shipyards support construction to meet our objectives for both. We work with Navy leadership to ensure that we do that. Trade-offs have to be made at some point, and there is a balanced process, but our going-in position is that we have to accomplish it all, and that's what our plan is designed to do.
And I completely agree, but your point about the Columbia being the primary acquisition priority, that is because it's the one place where we cannot have a gap. We cannot have a gap in the triad, and you have been able, I think, Admiral Weeks, you've been able to manage the gap a little bit through the extension of the useful life of the Ohio class, so that's helpful. But Columbia has to kind of take lead as we're trying to adjudicate, because this is an area where no gap is really allowable. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So I 100% agree with everyone. We work very hard to make sure that the programs don't come into competition with each other, because the only people that lose, or the only thing that loses when we do that is the American people. But absolutely, Columbia is the Navy's #1 acquisition priority. And as you state, we are doing select service life extensions for our Ohio-class submarines to make sure that we have sufficient margin to make sure that we continuously meet the STRATCOM requirement for 10 operational SSBNs. Yes,
great. Thank you, Admiral Rucker. Please give us an update on the status of the contract for the 2 FY24 Virginia-class option boats and the $5.7 million in emergency funding Congress provided in the CR for FY25.
Thank you for the question, sir. I would also echo the importance of all the programs. Where we stand right now is on the FY24 ships, which is 2 boats, as well as the $5.7 billion. We have finished up primary negotiations. We're finishing up documentation, as well as getting final approvals, answering questions for the various stakeholders to be able to support awarding the contract in the near term.
And when you say near term, give me some estimate of what near term means.
Yes, sir. Right now, as we finish up answering questions, making sure that the documentation is correct. Depending as we finish those, we're kind of in the final throes, so I don't want to give you a time because it's a little bit contract sensitive, but I would commit to you that it's not too far in the distance.
Great. Well, this committee and the full committee is going to be deeply involved between now and the end of June on the NDAA, so I hope that we can have a solid answer on that one as we get into the finalization of the committee's work product. Last year we had some significant discussion about the SAWS proposal that was made by industry with respect to this particular platform. Now, that's not in your control. That is probably SecDef and White House and Office of Management and Budget. But ever since the proposal came to light last year, I've had 2 basic questions. If we don't do SAWS, what do we do instead? And what can we do to make sure that we don't end up in a position where we need a proposal like SAWS in the future? Could you share your thoughts on those 2 questions?
Yeah, thanks for the question, sir. What I would say is the most important thing, whichever path we choose, whether it's your term SAWS or a different path, the main thing we're focused on is outcomes. And what we were able to do through the analysis that we did over the last year or 2 is clearly identify across both shipbuilders and the Navy what investments would be required, what's required with wages. And so in the end, we're looking and really do appreciate all the congressional support for the money we need for the 24 ships, and the anomaly funding, because that has investments and wages in there to get after what we need. So right now, we're focused on working with senior leadership to achieve those outcomes, which is increase submarine production to deliver the submarines the nation needs.
And I'm assuming the second half of my question, what do we do to avoid getting in a position like this in the future if the outcome strategy has to be one that's sustainable and not just episodic?
Yes, sir, I would agree. The goal is the ramp to that 1+2 in the most efficient and a quick process that we can.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield to you.